I'm your host, Jessica Shockley, and this is the Bold Foundations Podcast. The information shared in this podcast, Bold Foundations, is for informational and inspirational purposes only. While we discuss strategies for shifting your mindset to cultivate a more positive and fulfilling life, this podcast is not a substitute for professional, medical, psychological, or therapeutic advice. If you have specific mental health concerns or medical conditions, we encourage you to seek guidance from a qualified healthcare professional. Everyone's journey is unique, and professional support can provide personalized assistance tailored to your needs. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that myself, the host, and any guests on future or past episodes are sharing personal insights and general information, not medical or psychological advice. Always prioritize your well-being and consult a professional when necessary. Ouch! Don't let your insurance company add to the pain in your neck. It's time to lawyer up with Shockley Polino Personal Injury Attorneys. Store 727-498-8771 in your phone now. That's 727-498-8771. Offices St. Petersburg, Clearwater. Last Wednesday, I shared my positivity germs with you. Now this week, I want to build your immune system with actionable antibodies. If last week's episode felt a little too puppies and rainbows, or if you just love a list and you need more details to make it make sense, this episode is for you. If you haven't listened to last week, go back and get pumped before we dig further into the work. After you catch my positivity germs, I want to help build your immune system with actionable antibodies so you can continue to just get stronger and live a happier life. There's so much to this, so it may turn into a couple more episodes. I want to give you the time that you need to hear, absorb, and embody the things I put in this gift for you. Hi, guys. All right, so this week, let's dig deeper into having the ability or practicing not to play the victim and to flip anything negative going on into your life into a positive lesson. Again, I just want to reiterate, I am not an expert. This is something that I'm practicing. I think it very well may be a lifelong practice for us all. I don't think that any of us are perfect. None of us have arrived. These are just tips and tools. And the more that you use these tools, the stronger that your ability can get. And ultimately, from my personal experience, I just feel that these things can really help shift your mindset to a more positive direction. So not playing the victim is something that can be actually really difficult to recognize in yourself that you're even doing. I think it's really easy to look at somebody else and say, wow, they don't have any self-accountability here. But how often do you really think that you are doing that? So I would argue that the number one thing that you can do for yourself to help recognize this is to just have self-reflection, and giving yourself time and space to do that may feel a little daunting because we have such busy days, but it doesn't need to take long. I mean, you could just give yourself maybe 10 minutes each day in the quiet, no distractions, no screens, no music, no TV, no family member. Journaling is a really great option just because I don't really know the science behind it, honestly, but when you just put your pen to paper, the stuff that will just come out of you by doing that is really remarkable. But you could certainly just ask questions for yourself in your head as well. So I would challenge you to just start by asking yourself mentally how you feel. What's taking up space in your mind in that current moment. And if those feelings are negative, or if they're about somebody else in some sort of negative light, that might be a sign that you are playing the victim. So those feelings could show up as jealousy, envy, anger, anxiousness, sadness, frustration, annoyance, I'm sure that there's a multitude of other ones. But I would encourage you to really, really be open and honest with yourself. Don't feel ashamed for recognizing that you're having these types of feelings. Because again, this is your opportunity to make realizations that this can actually be the catalyst for positive change. So if you can stop yourself and say, oh, wow, I'm having this negative emotion. It's okay that I'm having this negative emotion. It's normal. But now, what can I do about it so I'm not stuck in it? That is a positive thing. That is something that you should celebrate that you're able to see in yourself. So, I had mentioned jealousy and envy. Jealousy and envy is so freaking real when it comes to social media right now. Social media influences us so much, us as adults, our children. It's incredible to think how much we can just be sucked into feeling like we're not enough, we're not good enough, we're not doing enough things, that maybe we should be doing X, Y, and Z. And you can limit your screen time and you can absolutely put things into perspective when you're looking at someone's quote highlight reel. But ultimately, during this self reflection, ask yourself, why do I feel that way? Why is that triggering that sort of response from me? And ask yourself if you're making comments in your head or out loud, like, well, that must be nice to have that. Or she only has that because of X, Y, and Z that I don't have. Be honest. No one's ever going to hear these thoughts in your head. I promise you. Are you feeling this way because you're actually mad or disappointed in yourself that you haven't actually taken the first step to get those things for yourself? That may be a really, really hard pill to swallow. To take self accountability in this moment. Are you feeling jealous or envious because it's something that you actually want for yourself? Maybe you're making yourself small or quiet because of this jealousy or envy? Are you feeling annoyed that someone is posting about their new cell phone business? And maybe you're telling yourself they don't deserve it. They're not qualified. Whatever negative thought that's kind of coming to surface, really start to look at that. Because do you feel this way because you've always wanted to start your own business? Or maybe you just simply want success and you're looking at their success online while you feel maybe stuck in your corporate job and you're not getting the recognition that you feel like you deserve and you're just watching them pave their own way. Pay attention to those negative feelings, but do not feel shame. Don't feel embarrassed or add more negative feelings to your list. Don't be mad at yourself for feeling this way. These are normal human feelings. They're meant to be nudges. They're meant to just be a little nudge to give you the opportunity to grow. Give yourself space to now analyze these feelings even more. What are you actually spending time on that's not helping you get those things that you want and that is actually fueling more negative feelings? So if we go back to the example that someone's maybe started their own business that just looks so incredible from their quote unquote highlight reel, and you feel like you're stuck at your job. So you're feeling jealous. One, we should all know that anyone who starts their own business, it's not this incredible magical journey. Being an entrepreneur is really hard. So go ahead and acknowledge that in this story that you're telling yourself. But if you are just sitting on the couch and you're just flipping through their social media and you're not doing anything for yourself to have what they have or to have, I mean, really to have what you want, maybe you need to think about shifting your time and your effort. Is this your opportunity to improve? Ask yourself and then make it your opportunity to improve. Use this as a lesson. So I want to stop here and just really, really hit this home and clarify that I'm not saying that you should constantly compare and start to overly criticize yourself in these moments. But I am a strong believer that having self accountability is so incredibly important. And the only way that you're going to have that accountability is to give yourself time for self reflection. So it's a balance. You just need to be able to really analyze those feelings that you have instead of just being like a bull in a china shop and being pissed off and angry at somebody for having something and triggering that emotion out of you. Stop and think, what is this trying to teach me? What is this doing for me? It's also important to have faith that things do get better and good things happen. I mean, really lean into that realization because just because there are other things going on in the world for someone else doesn't mean that those things can't happen for you or that nothing good happens to you. Because if you feel that way, nothing will happen in a positive way for you. This is all about flipping that positive or flipping that negativity rather into a positive mindset shift. With this self-realization, you may start to really recognize a lot of negative feelings that you're having about different things. So it's also important to remember as those start to come up and you're starting to count the ways that you're feeling bad about certain situations, that you need to really love and appreciate who you are right now, how you're feeling, how you felt yesterday, how you felt years ago, and just give yourself some grace because we are ever evolving. And again, these are normal human emotions. So let's talk about a couple different ways that playing the victim can show up in your life. Let's say, for an example, you are in a leadership role and there are people that are leaving your company for, a dollar raise, okay? And you're thinking, oh, why does this keep happening to me? Why do people keep leaving just for a dollar? That's so silly. That's so ridiculous. When you have these reoccurring things, this is also a big, big sign for you to stop and evaluate it. This is a lesson, a self-reflective moment, because anything that is repetitive, you just haven't figured it out yet. So, how can you solve this? Well, one, I would ask yourself, do you really think it's realistic that multiple people are leaving over a dollar? I would stand to reason no. And this is like a whole other tangent that I could go on in the corporate workplace. I would ask yourself, do you think that the stories these people are telling you are 100% the truth? I think that a dollar more is a dollar more, and there you can feel more worth than that. You can potentially make a little bit of money. Obviously taxes coming out make a difference. Um, but I would think that's only part of the story. I would especially think it's only part of the story if it's happening a lot. I would tell you to really dig into your own leadership skills, the organization as a whole, and see if maybe there are other cracks that are causing people to use this in combination with this dollar raise, that's actually the catalyst for them leaving. So when you take self-accountability in a leadership role, I think that it's safe to assume that a lot of people who leave, if not all people who leave, are not going to be 100% honest with you. So if you take on that responsibility, you need to remove yourself as a leader. You need to look through the lens as the employees of the organization and see things as they would see them. Obviously, ask for input, but remember, you may not always get all of the true input that you possibly could. But look at efficiency. Are things being ran efficiently, or could changes be made to make their jobs less frustrating and easier to perform? Are the expectations that are being put on the employee not really possible, or are the expectations affecting their work-life balance when it's not necessary? Are the conditions of the location and the team one in which that someone could thrive in and feel happy? Look at the physical location. Is there something going on with the building or the office that is a detriment to the team? Is the team itself not getting along? Are there peer conflicts? Are there manager to peer conflicts? These are just some of the things that you can look at. I think, again, it's really, really important in this moment to take the leadership hat off. Just reiterating, you really, really have to look at this through the lens of your team. So, again, any sort of repetitive occurrence in your life, this should be a giant red flag that you need to stop and really look at things differently than you have been so you can figure out what's really going on, get to the root of the issue, and solve it. Now, if we look at your personal life, maybe you are in a situation or you have been in multiple situations where you find yourself in relationships where you just don't feel appreciated. And at this point, it's been going on so long that you're a little beat down and you just can't figure out why all of the men are so freaking terrible. Maybe it's a recurring theme of infidelity. Maybe it's a recurring theme of you don't feel like your actions are reciprocated in terms of thoughtfulness. Maybe you are always coming up with the date night ideas and your partner's just along for the ride. Or maybe you feel that you talk in a really positive way, but your partner is talking down to you and making you feel defeated. So again, you're just questioning, why is this happening to me? Well, as we've learned, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And what can you learn from this? So, if this is a recurring pattern and you are often in relationships where you feel this way, this is another big red flag. You need to stop and really self-reflect why you are drawn to people to be in a romantic relationship with, or even outside the romantic relationship, maybe a friendship where you do feel like the doormat. Because if you are continually feeling like the doormat, I would ask yourself if you are allowing these behaviors to start small at first and then they continue to grow and become more recurrent. Because that would be a sign that you are not putting up some sort of personal boundary on self-respect. When you are dealing with infidelity, that's the same thing. This is a boundary. If you are in a romantic relationship that is monogamous, monogamy is your boundary. So if that boundary has been violated, it's your responsibility to say, this is not acceptable for me. This is not the relationship that I want. So that's not going to happen here. We're not going to do this. I'm going to remove myself If you start to make excuses for other people, you can quickly find yourself in a situation where those boundaries become blurred, they become broken, they become walked all over, and then you will continue to ask yourself, why is this happening to me? Where if you would have just gone back to the beginning and said, okay, this person is showing me who they are, and that's not for me. Another important lesson that can be learned from relationships is often people just so badly want to make things work. So they will accept bad behavior because they want this like end game. But the reality is dating is just showing you the things that you're learning what you want. You're learning what you'll accept, what you don't accept. So if you continue to put yourself and continue to stay in a position of accepting things that deep down your gut is telling you that you don't want, you're not giving yourself the opportunity to meet somebody else and to truly find what you deserve, which is a loving, equally well respected relationship. Personal boundaries come up a lot when we're talking about not playing the victim. Because oftentimes, in most of these situations, if you are not holding true to your boundary, there is something negative that's going to occur from that. But if you're not making the change, then the same thing just keeps happening. And that's why it's so easy to ask yourself, why is this happening to me? I would say that it can be really challenging to make a personal boundary. It can feel scary. It can feel like if you don't have enough confidence to make that decision, you can easily feel like maybe I'm not worthy of that good thing. And I'm saying that from personal experience. I think that I know that I have been in a lot of situations where I felt like I had to do the hard thing. I had to walk through it the difficult way because I didn't just deserve the easy thing. So I'll elaborate a little bit on that. In the workplace, I think that we are raised in life that nothing good comes easy, which I think is true for some things, right? So working hard at work to me, and I put this on myself, was to work an insane amount of hours, that I would answer everyone's beck and call and not necessarily block off time for me to get things done that I needed to administratively. It meant that I would quickly say yes to things that people asked me instead of giving myself time to really think and understand if I had the bandwidth to take on that project. So I was overwhelming myself in so many aspects because I felt like that's the grind. That's the hard work that I have to do in order to be successful. But what I learned through completely burning myself out was this job was not overwhelming because of the job. I mean, I think that it was a job that had an awful lot of demands and it can easily feel that way. But if I put myself in it and I took self-reflection and self-accountability and realized that I didn't put up the amount of boundaries that I could have or should have, that kind of shifts things, right? So it can be easy to feel like you just have to go through things the hard way, but that also may be another self-reflective prompt for yourself. If something feels like I have to do it the really hard, difficult way, maybe you aren't putting up boundaries. Maybe there is another way that you can climb that mountain. Okay, so for my parents out there, For personal experience, just to share some things that I've walked through. So currently, I have a 14-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 5-year-old. So we have lots of different phases of life going on in our home. And I've obviously walked through a lot of the younger years already. And what I have learned is the toddler years are really difficult, right? So for parents out there that are just really struggling with those terrible twos, first, let me just say it does get better. But you can easily ask yourself when they're just full on having this like meltdown tantrum in public. Maybe you're at a restaurant or a store, like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to me? You're embarrassing me. Like, get it together, 2-year-old. It's really hard in that moment to kind of remove yourself from the chaos that's going on. And what I have found is that they are 100% not doing anything to you. They are trying to figure things out. This life to them is very, very new. And just like it's okay and normal for you as the adult to have these negative emotions, it's okay for them to have it too. And that's what they're experiencing, and that's what they're trying to figure out how to regulate. So instead of freaking back out at them, telling them to shut down their emotions and why are you doing this? Why are you screaming? Stop crying, stop yelling. Pause and ask what they need. And maybe they don't know what they need. Maybe you're not physically asking them directly because what does that 2-year-old know yet at this stage in life? But ask yourself, what do they need right now? Maybe you are at a store counter that has a lollipop or something, and they want that lollipop, and you don't want them to have that lollipop because it's going to be time for dinner. And they are losing their damn mind because they can see the lollipop, but mommy's not letting me have it. Understand that if you, as the adult, wanted something and you really, really wanted it and it's staring you right in the face, maybe someone has a briefcase of $1 million and they are just waving it back and forth in your face, and you've got a mountain of bills at home to pay, and they're like, oops, sorry, you can't have this. You'd be pissed, right? It is totally normal for these children to have these emotions. These emotions aren't because of you. They're not happening to you. And in reality, there is absolutely nothing that you can do to stop them from feeling upset. And I think that's a big lesson in itself. So let me repeat that. There is nothing that you can do to a child that is going to stop and prevent them from having negative emotions. What you can do is validate their feelings and give them the tools that they need to, one, understand the feeling that they're having, understand that it's okay to feel that way, and then the tools to work through that emotion so they can better self-regulate as they get older. And understand that just like you and I are taking a lifetime of practice to better ourselves, it is going to take them time to build this muscle. It is a constant practice. Think about adults that you see out in the real world that are losing their mind on social media or losing their mind on an employee at a fast food chain restaurant or airport employee. We are all walking through something. There is something that we don't know or aren't aware of that's happening in everybody's minds. Pause. Figure out what do they need based on this feeling, which was amazing advice that we worked through on a previous podcast episode with Autumn Pearson, who is the director of Safety Harbor Art and Music Center. She shared as a past educator, how having an understanding that every feeling has a need. What do you need? So this is about them. When you're a parent, their emotions, their feelings, this is about them. It's not about you. And as you move through life with them, alongside them, and they start to shift their feelings towards anger towards you. Again, remember, this doesn't have anything to do with you. You are just there to help guide them, and it is normal for them to have emotions. And when people don't get what they want and they feel like they're just butting up against a wall, they're looking for someone to blame. So if you can pause and help them recognize and identify the type of feeling that they're having, help them ask themselves, why am I having this feeling? And then what is my need to move through this feeling? You both will only better from that. When I talk about tools that you can give your child to work through their emotion, that can be very different for each individual child. One big lesson that I learned as a parent of three is that all three of my children were born with wildly different personalities. Their needs and wants and how they work through things in life are all different. And I also learned this same lesson when I managed people in the workplace. People needed to be managed differently. So I would encourage you, if you're wanting to explore this particular topic a little bit more, to do some deep research into parenting. There's all kinds of amazing books and podcasts out there. There's just so many different methods that you may need to work on with your child's individual needs. But I will give you some quick examples. So I'll take my girls for this purpose, this example. My middle child, when she gets upset about something, she's actually really emotionally intelligent and she can identify the emotion that she's having really quickly at such a young age. But what she needs in that moment is space. So she knows that she's feeling angry. She will already use tools like trying to take a deep breath or a sip of water, or she'll walk over into the corner, but she needs that quiet time. She does not need me in her face asking questions. My youngest, when she is upset, one, she wants to feel heard. So I need to maybe just ask her one question and give her the opportunity to tell me what she wants to say. That's very important to her. And she also wants some sort of physical touch. So she does respond well to just a comforting, acknowledging hug in that moment. So again, these are two young girls, but they are two different needs on what they want when they're feeling this big emotion. So I will say, again, I sort of touched on it, but I also learned this in the workplace. And I think that the number one thing that you can do as a leader is really understand your team members. I used to talk about love languages in the workplace. There are people who thrive more on praise, getting that praise. Other people are more money motivated. They want to be rewarded with some sort of bonus. These are all things to work through, but the key with all of this is just to have an understanding of the person in front of you and have an understanding that when they're having that emotion, it's okay. Let them have their emotion. Again, it doesn't have anything to do with you, but the tools that you can give them can very much vary depending on the person. Now, you may be asking yourself, what do these tools have to do with me not playing the victim? Well, the biggest takeaway from that is your realization that their feelings have nothing to do with you. People have a right and naturally will have those emotions, and you can separate yourself from that. And giving yourself the ability to pause, ask them questions, maybe give them some tools and prompts that may help them work through their own things takes yourself out of the situation and removes yourself from the possibility of being the victim in the situation because this is something that they need to work through. Now, as a parent, you do have a responsibility to help guide them a little bit more than you would an adult. I would say in adult relationships, you don't have the responsibility to fix someone else as much as, especially women, we do. We like to fix people. That's not our job. As a leader in the workplace, you have an obligation to understand your team, and you do have an obligation to coach and guide your team members. But remember that they are still adults and they have their own responsibility to work on themselves and do the right thing. They have more of an understanding at this point in their life of what they need to do to move forward. Now, again, as a mom of three, this sounds perfect and amazing when you tie it up in a little bow. And I mean, gosh, that's not always real life, right? I mean, I will be the first one to tell you that I am not a perfect parent, and we have had all kinds of struggles, like all of you out there. And I know that that will continue, especially with my oldest, because for him, every time he moves to a new phase, it's new for me as a parent to be alongside him in those phases. But again, if we just sort of work on practicing these skills as we move through life, we do get stronger. We do have more of an understanding. We do realize that everyone has their own junk that they're dealing with. And it doesn't have to do with us. We are not the victim. We are just walking alongside each other, which Mindy had shared in the last podcast. We're just walking alongside each other. Okay, so to recap, when we dig a little bit deeper into not playing the victim, we went through just a few examples that might show up in your life, and there are countless things out there that could create these type of feelings in you where you feel jealous and angry and sad, and you might be asking yourself, why is this happening to me? And now with this perspective of mine that I'm sharing with you, perspective of other women that I have spoken to or I have gotten things from, if you allow yourself the time to really self-reflect, and that time means giving yourself the ability to not be disrupted. So again, you want this quiet space. Maybe you want to journal. Maybe you just want to ask yourself things on a walk in your head. And remember that no one has to hear those thoughts. Like, this is just for you to figure out your crap. And once you start to identify those negative feelings, you're going to dig down and ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Is it because maybe I'm not taking the action that I need to be able to better myself? And then really start to form and identify whatever that life lesson is so you can move through it. Again, I want you all to remember that these negative feelings are actually a positive blessing. These negative feelings are normal life nudges to get you to a space where you can just continue to be a better version of yourself. So the next time you feel angry, the next time you feel jealous, anxious, sad, maybe thank yourself. Thank yourself for the ability to feel these negative emotions, the ability to identify what they are, the ability to recognize where they come from, and thank yourself for using those things to then flip them to a more positive tool for yourself. All right, so the next topic that we're going to dig a little bit more into that we touched on last week is being excited for something, being excited for the opportunity. Now, some of you may have heard last week's episode and thought, this girl is delusional. why is she just like so high up in the clouds, just being happy-go-lucky? Like there's serious stuff going on in this world. I get it, right? But the whole point is to shift your mindset. So if you're listening to this, I would argue that you are open to shifting your mindset. So if you're open to shifting your mindset, you're opening yourself to look at things in a different light. And I would ask that you join me up in the clouds. So being excited about something when the world can feel really heavy is, I would say, the most magical thing that you can do for yourself because you are not allowing yourself to just continue to sit into this negative space, and you're not allowing this negativity to just consume your thoughts. There's not to say that there's something wrong with focusing on things that really matter to you. You know, there's a lot of things going on in this world that people don't agree with, and they want to be able to take action for that, which I think is great. I'm just saying that you need to allow yourself time for things that make you happy. And I could go on a little bit of a rant, honestly, about people spending too much time on things that are negative that are going on in the world that they want to shift. So actually, I think I'm going to give that a little bit of attention here and just give you my perception. There are a lot of conflicting thoughts on, let's just take human rights, for example. To me, there is a difference between being angry and fighting the good fight and encouraging people to be angry with you and just igniting that anger in people to benefit your cause versus spending your time fighting that cause with love. So, whatever that cause may be to you, I am 1000% not telling you not to care about it. What I'm asking of you is to think about your own mental health and if you approach that cause in a different light. So instead of spewing out negative information and sharing all the negative things about what you don't like, spending your time doing some good. Maybe that's volunteering. Maybe that is helping a person who's directly impacted by the negative thing going on. Maybe it is sharing the good that came out of those actions with others because you are now bringing light to your cause, but you're doing it in a way that positively affects and impacts other people. And you are now getting joy out of this work, and you are fighting this cause again with love. So, to my point about being excited about something, this is an opportunity for you to feel excitement over making positive change in the world versus feeling depleted and angry and wanting to just spread that negativity to others. Be excited that you positively impacted maybe just one person. Maybe you did something for one person. How amazing that you did that for them. And really sit with that and be excited about how much more you could do for other people now that you've accomplished that. The change that you can make with positivity is not just going to help other people, it's going to help your mental health because I am very concerned for a lot of people's mental health right now because they are feeling so sad and angry. And again, rightfully so. You have a right to feel that way. I think my concern is more that people are just sitting in it and sticking with it. And I think that there may be other ways and different avenues that we could go about fighting for the causes that we feel so strongly about. So I know that's a heavy topic and you may not agree with it, and that's okay. That's just my perception. If we talk about other examples of being excited about something, maybe you are feeling like you're at a dead end job. If you don't allow yourself the opportunity to think that there are other possibilities out there, whether it's in your own organization, room for growth and a promotion, or at another organization that's more aligned with you, well, then you're never going to make any change. This is why it's just such a key step. And again, it's just a step. The step is just believing that there is an opportunity. The action, it comes later. I'm not saying that we're just living in this space of only daydreaming and thinking about these magical little things that can happen. There is absolutely 100% action that needs to follow through. But there's so many of us who will just sit in this space where nothing good happens to me and that can't happen because of XYZ. And we start making excuses when those excuses are just a crutch because maybe we're too scared to make change. We're too afraid. Maybe, if you really look at yourself, you're too lazy to make change. And again, those negative feelings, they're okay to have. But I want to push my friends out there and anyone listening to believe in yourself that you don't have to be stuck in that negative space. It's okay to feel them, recognize them, identify them, and figure out how you're going to move forward in a more positive direction. Being excited about a possibility is going to just ignite some passion. It's going to create excitement. It's going to just elevate those endorphins and dopamine because you are now in this great mood thinking about all the amazing things that could happen for you. That vacation you've always wanted to take, that home you've always wanted to live in, that job that you're going to go for, that relationship that you know you're going to be so happy in. But even the small things, you are going to run that half marathon. You are going to write that book. You are just going to be brave enough to sing karaoke. I mean, gosh, it doesn't have to be big. Just be excited about something. Being excited about something is your first step into taking action and achieving the most beautiful and big opportunities that you can. All right, so I want to give you some tactical tools in order to allow yourself to feel excited for an opportunity. If you're somebody who has never really allowed yourself to feel excited for an opportunity, you may need to unlearn some things that you've thought about yourself or stories that you've told yourself in your head. And I go back to journaling here. I just think that it's a really powerful tool that you can use. So, in that maybe 10 minutes of self reflection time that you give yourself a day, each day, ask yourself, what's one big dream that I have that I want? What's one big, 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 big thing? And then ask yourself, what's one positive thing that I want to happen today? So, that could be a smaller thing. Maybe today, the positive thing that I want is I want to be able to run a mile, right? When you are putting it out into the universe, these goals, you should feel excited about the opportunity that they're going to happen. Because think about it, you're not going to write down a goal and then put an intention behind it that it's not going to happen. You are allowing yourself the opportunity to, one, think about what do I want? Two, you're going to claim it. You're going to write it down. Thirdly, now you're starting to feel excited about the possibility, right? I am going to run that mile. I am going to take that European vacation. Then I want you to really visualize it. Picture yourself running that mile. Picture how it's going to feel so freaking awesome at the end of it because maybe you haven't ran in a couple years because of an injury. Picture yourself on that European vacation. Picture yourself eating the most gorgeous buttery croissant in Paris. What would that taste like? Be excited about what is going to happen for you. Visualize it and be with it. I know it sounds a little silly, but I just want to make sure that I also mention this part. When you're allowing yourself the opportunity to come up with things to be excited about, don't stop yourself from thinking about something or writing it down because it feels too impossible or too big. Don't doubt that things can happen. It's important to remain in this space during this very first step, that everything is possible and to be excited about it. You are excited about the opportunity for it to happen. Some people are more visual people. So I'm sure most of you have heard of vision boards, and that's something that a lot of times people will do at the beginning of the year to better work on their New Year's resolutions. But this is something that you could really do at any time. And I know that magazines are kind of like an antique at this point. We used to always get magazines at our house growing up as a kid, and that's something that just doesn't happen anymore. So, to make a vision board back in the day, maybe you would cut out all kinds of images from a magazine. Maybe that shifted to you printing out images from the internet, but a lot of people don't even have printers. So, something that I did at the beginning of the year was I actually went on Canva, which is a free app you can use. There's a paid version, but there's also a free. And I made my own vision board that I turned into the wallpaper on my phone. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can kind of see my screen here. I just put all my different little images. I'll share a couple of them. One is just this like really toned chick working out, and that was just representative to me of really putting some focus on my physical health this year. Um, Another one is a picture of the Eiffel Tower because I really want to take a European trip, like I mentioned earlier. So that's on here. And there's lots of different ones that are special to me and have their own meaning for me. But what I will say about this, so I pre-record these episodes. Today is February 24th. And let's see here. One, two, three, four. Four of these items that I put on my vision board on my phone wallpaper have already begun to happen. Isn't that amazing? I mean, subconsciously, some of these are happening. Some of these are happening without me actually initiating it, which is wild to me. Two of those that happened without me initiating it are ones that I would have previously doubted could ever happen. But again, I'm throwing away that doubt when I made this and allowed myself to get excited about the possibility and the opportunity of it happening anyway. And look what happened. So I think it may sound silly to people to do a vision board, but I would say it's a pretty remarkable thing. And again, this is about being excited about the opportunity. I want to really hit home the message that there is action that needs to happen. Those two things that started to become a work in progress on my vision board that I didn't initiate, there will be things that I will need to do to actually make them happen. But we're in the beginning stages here. We're just being excited about the possibility and the opportunity. So, journaling, vision board, those are really, really great tools to identify those things that you want to be excited about. The other thing that I want to talk about when you want to feel excited about the opportunity is to be careful who you share those things with. And the reason why I am saying that is because ultimately there's always going to be somewhere out there in the world who has a negative feeling or opinion on what you are saying or even just who you are. And if you decide to share something that you are feeling excited about or want to feel excited about, and someone reacts to that in a negative way, that's going to sort of dim your light about it, right? And then maybe you start to doubt and question yourself. But we don't want to do that. We want to remain in a space of feeling excited. We don't want someone else's energy to taint the things that we really want because ultimately they may be triggered by what you're saying because they're back in that space of playing the victim and they're feeling jealous and they're feeling angry and they don't deep down like that you are shooting for this big dream. Don't let their opinions taint your excitement. So I was at a conference a couple of years ago, and this woman shared something that really stuck with me. She said, "My story is not cheap." And I think that that is really something to hold close to your heart, especially with today's social media where a lot of us are sharing a lot of things. I personally am someone, I do think that I do share a lot online, and people out there may think that I'm sharing everything, but what they don't know is there is so much that I don't share. And even as a friend, I share a lot of my life or day to day with friends, but there is still a lot that I hold close to me that I won't share with certain people because I don't want their negative opinion or vibes on my dreams. Or maybe I'm just not sharing it with anybody yet because I'm still kind of working through that internally. So that's something to consider. Really, really think about who you are sharing your exciting opportunities with because your story is not cheap. So, something that not playing the victim and being excited about opportunities have in common is the tool that you're going to use really throughout this whole process of having a positive mindset. And it's the self-reflection, self-accountability, and having the time, giving yourself the time and space to do that. I would say that's, if anything, that's probably the biggest takeaway. If you could just learn how to have that self-reflection, I would just be so happy that that's the gift that you take from all of this. These moments of self-reflection, again, I just want to make sure it really, really resonates with all of you. It's just for you. Nobody has to know these thoughts that you're having. These are nudges and lessons for you to work through to better yourself. And I am a firm believer that when you better yourself, you better other relationships around you. It's like the saying to put on the air mask first. And if you just give yourself a couple minutes each day to recognize how you're showing up, give yourself grace for who you are showing up as. Give yourself grace for who you showed up as yesterday or years prior. And taking those negative things and turning them into positive lessons, we can all just quickly learn so much from ourselves that way. So, as we move into next week, I will dig a little bit deeper into a couple more topics that I touched on the first episode of shifting your mindset from negative to positive. Thanks for listening.
Did this episode of Bold Foundations inspire you? Or can you relate? Maybe you have your own story to tell. Whether you want to share with me privately or you would like to be a guest on the podcast, reach out by going to boldfoundations.my.canva.site or follow us on Instagram at bold_foundations. And don't forget to leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks for listening.